Ki Fateh. So the sixth Salakhani we're talking about is Sachiari, is truthfulness. And it's a much deeper truthfulness than the word itself. It's to do with fidelity, that loyalty between a Sikh and the Guru, between a Sikh and their parents, between a Sikh and their partner. And it's a very, very difficult quality to have. But it's loyalty not based on worldly values. It's loyalty not based on a blood tie. It's loyalty based on Gurmat principles. So if your partner, if your parents, if your child wants to follow Gursikhi, wants to follow this path of Tan Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, you should give all your support. That's where true loyalty comes. That's what fidelity we're talking about. The example that we have in the PowerPoint presentation is of Bibi Surinder Kaur. And she had an Anand Karaj that was very, very unique. She is the Singhni of Amar Shaheed Bhai Satwant Singh Ji, who did Seva on the 31st of October in 1984 at 9 a.m. along with Amar Shaheed Bhai Beyant Singh. And Bibi Surinder Kaur was engaged to Bhai Satwant Singh Ji. But the Anand Karaj couldn't happen before 1984 because Bhai Satwant Singh Ji couldn't get holidays. Bhai Sahib then did the Seva, and when he was sat in jail, he remained in complete Chardi Kala. His family, his Bibi Surinder Kaur was only allowed to visit him a couple of times, and in fact the authorities said because she's not married to him, because she's not his Singhni, she can't visit him. And Bibi Surinder Kaur was very, very devoted to Bhai Satwant Singh Ji. The father of Bhai Satwant Singh Ji, Baba Tarlok Singh Ji, said to her, "You've had this engagement, but there is no hope for Bhai Satwant Singh Ji. He's definitely going to be given the hangman's noose. There is no justice in this country. No matter what righteous action Bhai Sahib has done, he'll never get true justice over here. So why don't you marry the younger brother of Bhai Satwant Singh, Bhai Sarwan Singh?" And what did Bibi Surinder Kaur Ji do? She said, "I've already accepted Bhai Satwant Singh Ji as my husband. That Gursikh who's done such a Mahan Seva, I can never turn my back on him. I've accepted Bhai Sarwan Singh as my brother, you as my father-in-law. I'm not going to marry anyone else. I'm not going to break this tie." And all sorts of family members came and put pressure on her. Her own father, Baba Virsa Singh, came and said, "Think about what you're doing. You're so young. You're only in your early 20s. You're going to be a widow of this thing. There's no way he's not going to get the hangman's noose." And what did Bibi Surinder Kaur Ji do? She said, "No, this is the Gursikh, this is the Gurmukh. It's my duty as a daughter of the Khalsa Panth to stay by his side no matter what. He's following Gurmat, he's following Gursikhi. It doesn't matter if I have to live as his widow for the rest of my life. It doesn't matter if I don't have children. It doesn't matter if I don't have a husband to support me. I'm going to stay by his side." Her father even threatened to commit suicide. This is the worldly relationship, not the Gurmat relationship. What happened then? Bibi Surinder Kaur was taken in front of the Kal Takht Jathadar, and he even told her, even the Jathadar told her, "You're going to live your life as a widow. Think about this very carefully." He admired her courage, but he advised her from this perspective. And what did Bibi Surinder Kaur Ji do? Again, she said, if I was going to get married as promised, if the Anand Karaj was going to happen before 1984, Bhai Sahib would have still done his seva. I would still have been the widow of Bhai Satwant Singh Ji. In this way, on the 2nd of May in 1988, Bibi Surinder Kaur Ji had an Anand Karaj to the photo of Bhai Satwant Singh Ji. Bhai Satwant Singh Ji and Bhai Kehar Singh Ji on the 6th of January in 1989 at Tihar jail were hanged. They attained Shahadat. They went there laughing. And Bibi Surinder Kaur lived as the widow of Bhai Satwant Singh Ji. Such was the loyalty, such was the dedication. Not to the person, but to the act. So the next quality, courage, surmatha. Now there are many, many different examples we can speak about courage. Of the Singhnis, of the Kaurs, of the daughters of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. Everyone gives an example of Mata Pag Kaur as the embodiment of the female spirit picking up the sword. Because remember, Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj gave Shastras to his daughters. He didn't only give them to his sons. Every single weapon he gave to the Singhs, he gave to the Kaurs as well. These two, this family, were born in the house of Pandits. It was only after the influence of Sant Gyani Baba Kartar Singh Ji, who did huge Gurmukh Prachar across India, that this family of Bhai Mokam Singh, Bibi Preetam Kaur, Bibi Satnam Kaur, Bibi Waheguru Kaur became Gursikhs, took Amrit. And they became very, very close to Mahapurush. They became very close to Sant Gyani Baba Kartar Singh Ji and eventually Sant Gyani Baba Jarnail Singh Ji. Eventually, the Sakha of 1984 unfolded. In June, tanks, armies were brought against the house of Satguru Shri Guru Ramdas Ji Maharaj, that Pavitra Stan. And this family were over there. They were there to learn about Gursikhi. They were there to learn about Gurmat. They were there to become one with the Kalpurk for no other reason. And what happened? The family approached Santji. Santji approached the family. He was very close to this family. The daughters, Bibi Satnam Kaur, Bibi Waheguru Kaur, he regarded them as his own daughters. And he did a benti to Bhai Mokam saying that such terrible things are going to happen over here. So much blood is going to be spilt over here. Take your family and leave. You've got a very young family. You have a very young wife. Leave. And what did Bhai Mokam Singh Ji say? Bhai Mokam Singh Ji said, I've done a ardas before Satguru Shri Guru Ramdas Ji Maharaj. I'll continue to do my seva here. My family will continue to do my seva here. If my Guru wants, we'll give shahadat over here. We'll sacrifice ourselves over here. In this way, they set up their morcha at the same astan where Baba Deep Singh Ji placed his cease at the feet of Guru Ramdas Ji, hundreds of years ago. And in this way, this family did seva of the Singhs. Of the 200 Singhs that were hand-selected by Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj to do that seva of protecting the sanctity of Darbar Sahib. And what happened? The Singhs gave such a response that Delhi Takat decided to send tanks into Harmandir Sahib, tanks into the Parikrama, where we go today and place all our prayers, all our hope, all our devotion at the feet of Satguru Shri Guru Ramdas Ji Maharaj. That Parikrama was being ripped apart by a tank whose name was Vijayanta, the main battle tank of Delhi Takat, that weighs over 39,000 kilograms, that was powered by diesel, that could travel over 30 miles an hour. But remember, our history shows us that for any Takat that comes and tries to touch the throne of Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, the throne of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, Maharaj always gives that strength to his Gursikhs. In the same way how Bhai Bachittar Singh Ji was made to go and fight an elephant. In this modern day example, this family were Guru Sahib's tank. The tank that Delhi Takat brought, we said was powered by diesel. This tank of Guru Nanak Dev Ji was powered by Chandi Diwar, was powered by Shri Chopay Sahib. The tank of Delhi Takat had armor which at the thickest point were 3 inches thick of steel. These Gursikhs were armed with the Sharabla Sastras of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, were armed with the Dastar of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, were armed with the Bana of Guru Sahib. The tank, Delhi Takat's tank, had 2 big armaments, 2 cannons that were capable of firing 40 cannons, 40 shells in 1 minute. What weapons did the tank of Guru Sahib have? The weapons that the tank of Guru Sahib had was Naam Simran, was Mool Mantar, was Gur Mantar. And in this way, as the tank began to approach, as the tank began to crush the Parikrama, as the tank began to face the Takat of Akal Takat, the Takat of Satguru Shri Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji Maharaj, Guru Sahib dispatched his own tank. And these Gursikhs did a ardas before Guru Sahib, that Guru Sahib, prepare for us, we're coming home. And in the same way as their elder brother, Baba Deep Singh Ji, placed his head at the feet of Tan Tan Satguru Shri Guru Ramdas Ji Maharaj, this family fell upon the tank and destroy that tank. Now, a lot of you wonder, how can a family do this? How can a family so young destroy a tank? But in the same way, how can an army of 40 defeat an army of 1,000,000? How can an elephant be defeated by a Singh who's only 4 foot tall? This is the courage that we need. Courage is not only required in life, courage is required in the battlefield as well. The battlefield of life. Maybe today there was not going to be a tank brought here. Maybe we're going to get other pressures from worldly things, from our work, from our university, from our studies. But we must make sure, just like this family, that we stay true to the principles of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. The principles of Gurmat, the principles of Red. Pavitrata, the 8th quality, purity. Purity from external sense. Making sure that you're clean, making sure that you have that sucham when you come and do seva over here, for all of us. But pavitra, purity in the heart as well, purity in the being that you are. This is an example of Mata Ganga Ji, the mother of Satguru Shri Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji, the Mahal of Satguru Shri Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. Very, very beautiful Sakhi. One time a Sangat was coming from Kabul. In the same way, we've come from all over Bradford to the Darbar of Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. This Sangat was coming from Kabul, walking all the way to Amritsar, all the way to Harmandir Sahib. And as they were coming, they met 2 people. They met a man and a woman, a Sikh. And this family did so much seva for them. This family, this Gursikh and his wife, they got a fan and started fanning the Sangat that were coming from Kabul. They made food for them, they made langar for him, they massaged their legs, they did everything for them. And they looked after them the whole journey. And when finally they arrived at Sachkhand Shri Darbar Sahib, when finally they arrived to do darshan of Satguru Shri Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj, they went to place their shoes in the same way that we do today. And they wanted someone to look after their shoes, because in the same way today people steal your shoes. So what happened is they left their shoes over there and they asked some of the younger members of the Sangat to look after their shoes. One of the little Singhs or one of the little Kaurs. But they didn't want to stay. They wanted to have darshan of Satguru there as well. They travelled all that way. So who eventually did that seva? It was that Sikh and his wife who did that seva, who stayed guarding those shoes. And the Sangat and the Jathadar went into Shri Darbar Sahib, and all the other Sangat were there. But Guru Sahib wasn't there. And they asked Baba Buddha Ji, he was there at the time, where is Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj? We've come to have their darshan. And Baba Buddha Ji said, Satguru Shri Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj and Mata Ganga Ji left here a while ago to go and meet the Sangat from Kabul. Did you not see them on the way? The Jathadar of Kabul Sangat said, no, we didn't see Guru Sahib, we didn't see Mata Ganga Ji. We just met 2 Gursikhs who were doing our seva, who cooked for us, who looked after us, who massaged our legs. And Baba Buddha Ji led the whole Sangat outside to that same place where these 2 people were looking after their shoes. And who was that person? That was Satguru Shri Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. That was Mata Ganga Ji. What were they doing? They were cleaning the Gursikhs. They were cleaning the shoes of the Gursikhs who'd come from Kabul. Such is the purity of our Guru, but such is the purity of Mata Ganga Ji. That's what pavitra is. That's what true purity is. Following your Guru, living that Gurmat lifestyle. Focused and attentive. This is another beautiful Sakhi, but before we get on to that, we need to see what this focused is, because focus means concentration, dhyan, not only on your worldly stuff, not only on your job, not only on your studies, but on Gursikhi. But this very, very important thing to recognize, that we're not a taram that goes and sits in the mountains and does bhakti, that detaches themselves completely from this world. We're a taram that while living in this world, while living in this maya, while living in Kaljug, do bhakti. when Sachkhand Shri Harmandir Sahib was first being constructed. Imagine that time. Because Harmandir Sahib isn't built of gold, isn't built of marble, isn't built of bricks or mortar. Harmandir Sahib was constructed and is held today in place through the Naam Simran, the Naam Kamai of Gursikhs, of Guru Sahib. That's what makes Harmandir Sahib so special. That's why that's Sachkhand on earth. Now, when Harmandir Sahib was being built, some historical granths say this happened at Gurdwara Sahib, not at Harmandir Sahib, but some say it was Harmandir Sahib. But it's not the actual facts of the story that we're paying attention to, it's the overall message. The Sangat were doing untold seva over there, were engrossed in Naam Simran in Abhyas. Satguru Shri Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj was overseeing all this. And what happened? The Sangat who knew each other very well, in the same way as at this Gurdwara Sahib, we know each other very well. There was someone who came from outside. They'd never seen a Bibi over there. She used to come early in the morning and she used to leave just before sunset. And she never used to speak to anyone. All she would do, any seva that was requested of her, she would go and do without any questions being asked. And the Sangat began to think, who is this person who keeps coming? Who is this person who's so dedicated to seva? Who anything you ask her, she'll do. Who doesn't speak to anyone, who the only thing keeps on her lips is Vaheguru, Naam Simran, Naam Abhyas, Guru Mantra. That's it. Where does she come from? Where does she go? We don't see her sleeping here at night. And the Sangat eventually approached Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj and said, who is this person? And Guru Sahib said, we'll call her and tell her to tell us. Because remember, Guru Sahib's Antarjami, he knows exactly who this Bibi was, this Mata was. And she came, and Guru Sahib asked her in the Sangat, he said, where do you come from? And what did she say? This Bibi said, I come from Kabul. Now with the kirpa of Google Maps, I worked out that Kabul from Harmandir Sahib, from Amritsar, is over 850 kilometers away. This Bibi said she traveled on a daily basis from Kabul to Harmandir Sahib. How did she do this? Sangat, how did she do this? The Bibi said, what happens, I've got a very young child at home. My husband, early in the morning, he goes out into the fields. I sit at home with my child, and together we do abhyas. I place my head at the feet of Satguru Shri Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. Place my head at the feet of the Gursikhs who are doing seva at Harmandir Sahib. While sat in Kabul, I close my eyes, and what happens? Immediately I'm transported over here. And the Sangat also noticed something very strange about this Bibi. Sometimes she would be doing this with her hand. And they said, what's this special thing that you keep on doing? And she said, that's when my child is crying. I'm rocking my child. But imagine this. Imagine this, the want for seva, the desire to do seva, that this Bibi can transfer herself over 850 kilometers a day. And we need to look at ourselves. How many times have we offered seva? How many times have we offered that opportunity? And how many times do we take it? It's snowing outside, it's raining outside, it's too hot, it's too cold. Someone else will do it. But look, she lived a worldly lifestyle, exactly how Guru Sahib wanted us to live. And yet, she was able to do this Mahan Seva. It's Gursikhs like this that have built Harmandir Sahib. The next quality, Pandita, wise. Not in a worldly perspective, not being wise for worldly knowledge. Wise from a Gurmat perspective. Knowing your history, knowing your philosophy, knowing your theology, knowing anyone who approaches you, any person on the street who asks you, what are you? That you're able to give a jawab, you're able to give the right response, you're able to give a response that Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj would want you to give. This is a picture when Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj was about to go on their first Udasi. You can see in the picture, there's Baba Shri Chand, there's Mata Sulakhni Ji, who is Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Mahal, and Bibi Nanaki on the left-hand side. The first Sikh, the first person who recognized the light of Akal Purkh in Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. The first Sikh. And what happened? Bibi Nanaki was so in love with Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. She was so in love with Guru Sahib. Right from the beginning, when Guru Sahib was first born, she recognized this was the light of Akal Purkh that had come. And when Guru Sahib went on his Udasi, he saw her upset and he said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "I want to have your darshan. I want to always see you." Think about that. There's another thing that she said, if you want anything, if you ever want any seva, don't go to anyone else. Come to me. Anything you want, I'll give you. Anything I can give you, anything I have is already yours. And this way, Guru Nanak Dev Ji did a bachan that anytime you think of me, I'll come to your house. In the same way, this applies to us. Anytime we want to think of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Guru Granth Sahib Ji, our avastha should be such that we have partak darshan of Guru Sahib. Imagine how far we've fallen that we don't see that. We are sat in their presence right now. In Panth Prakash, it says, Yaad kare Guru si Nanaki ponche bar nalai. Anytime she would think about Guru Nanak Dev Ji, he'd be there. As Guru Nanak Dev Ji was sat in Mecca, in Medina, he would tell Bhai Mardana Ji, we need to go. And Bhai Mardana Ji says, where do we need to go? Guru Nanak Dev Ji says we need to go back to Punjab. And Bhai Mardana said, how can we go back to Punjab? How can we go over there? And Guru Nanak Dev Ji touched the head of Bhai Mardana Ji. And what did Bhai Mardana Ji see? He saw Bibi Nanaki Ji crying in Birag for the darshan of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. And what happened? Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj appeared over there. Remember, very, very important thing, we're talking about children. Bhakti Salakini Satsam Tatput, to produce a true child. Bibi Nanaki never had any children. She could have asked Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj for everything. She could have asked Guru Sahib for everything. But what did she ask Guru Sahib for? For their darshan, to do their seva. That's true wisdom. What do we ask Guru Sahib for? Do we ever ask them for that? Or do we ask them for worldly things? And there's nothing wrong with asking them for worldly things, because who else are we going to go to? Who else is going to give us? Who else is the provider for us? The next Lakhani. Sing. Uddam, effort. There's nothing we can achieve without effort. Without making that first step to Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, it's very, very difficult to progress at all in this path. It's almost impossible. We can't sit at home and hope that Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj is going to come to us without making that first step. And that's all that's required. That one little step. Do we make that effort? Do we make that effort to know our history? Do we make that effort to become closer to Guru Nanak Dev Ji? Do we make that effort to do kirtan, to do our nitnem? And if we don't do that, how are we going to achieve an avastha like this? How are we going to become Gursikhs? How are we going to become Brahmagyanis? How are we going to become Sant Sapais? It's very easy talking about these things. People like me don't do anything. We have no effort. It's very easy putting out a PowerPoint presentation. The real thing is to do the effort, is to follow in these footsteps. Because Sikhi isn't about talking about things, it's about living it. It's about living this lifestyle. This story is of Mata Tyan Kaur, who was originally known as Mata Tyan Devi, a Hindu lady. And I'm just going to give you a very, very short summary of the Sakhi. It's a very, very beautiful one. I would probably be here for another hour if I told you it properly. But basically, Mata Tyan Devi was a Hindu lady who came to the Gurdwara Sahib, who did some satsangat, who heard kirtan. She did a benti to the kirtani to give her a mantra. She didn't want to become an amritari. She didn't want to become a Sikh. She wanted a mantra. The Gursikh who was doing kirtan was a very, very high avastha Gursikh, and he recognized you can't get any mantra from any person. The mantra comes from the Panj Pyare, and it's very, very important. They were talking about the Amrit Sanchar. We'll talk about that in a minute. But This Gursikh, after she kept on pestering him, after she kept on saying, give me a mantra, I don't want to take Amrit, I don't want to become a Sikh, I just want a mantra. I love these bhajans that you've been singing. That's what she referred to Kirtan. Gursikh finally decided, chalo, recite Mool Mantra Sahib. And he wrote it down in Hindi for her. And she pulled out her mala and said, I say Shivji's name with this, can I use this? And he said, yeah, by all means use it. Years down the line, this same Gursikh came to that village where she was. And he heard from the Sangha that this lady, this Hindu lady had become a Brahmgyani, become a Mahapurush. And he went to her house, he knocked on the door opened, and who did he see? He saw a Khalsa who greeted him with Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh, who was dressed in the bana of Guru Sahib, who was wearing Guru Sahib's dastar. And he asked her, what happened? How did you change? Tell me your story. Anytime we see someone who comes into this path, it's very important. We ask them, how did they come onto this path? Because that's the source of inspiration, what made them change. So in this way, this Bibi said, I was sat down and I did Mool Mantra Jap, just as you said. And I didn't do it once or twice. I fell in love with it. I kept on doing it over and over and over and over and over again. And eventually one day, what happened? Everywhere I looked, I could see Mool Mantra. Every single place I looked, from the sky, from the walls, from the door, even on the floor, I could see Shri Mool Mantra Sahib. And eventually, as I was sat doing this, as I was doing this job, my conscience was pulled in. And then I saw 4 people come who were carrying a carriage, and they told me, get on the carriage, we're here to take you. And she said she got in the carriage, and they took her to different places. And each place they took her, they said, why don't you get off the carriage, explore the place, see what there is to be seen over here. Tell us if you want to stay here, and we'll leave you here. In this way, the Bibi kept on saying, is there anything more? Is there anything more? Is this all there is? And they kept taking her to nicer places, better places. But she didn't want any other place. She asked, is there any place where Shri Mool Mantra Sahib is recited 24 hours a day? Eventually, she said she got taken to a very special place. Outside, she saw the Devtiya that she's been doing namaskar to her whole life, who are doing benti to get into this place. And then she said she saw a flash of light. She was taken inside this place. What did she see inside this place? She saw an army of people clad in blue with cerebral shastras, sat down in Sangat, reciting Guru Mantra, reciting Kirtan. And she said, these are very, very beautiful people with moon-like faces. And I sat down, and at the front, I could see one person. And who was this person? This person, I can't describe it. This person was the embodiment of Shri Mool Mantra Sahib themselves. The scene she describes is very much like this picture on the left. It was the darbar of Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, the King of Kings, the Saint of Saints. And she said, as she sat there, a Singh approached her with a long stick, and he came and said, what are you doing over here? How have you come over here? And what did this Bibi say? She said, I have every right to be here. I want to listen to the Kirtan. I want to listen to Shri Mool Mantra Sahib. And eventually, before she knew it, she was stood in front of Ikumkar himself, in front of Guru Sahib. And she did benti. She said, Guru Sahib, I want to remain here. And what did Guru Sahib say? Guru Sahib said, I'll give you another chance. I'll give you one more chance. That's what Guru Sahib said. You have a set number of days. She closed her eyes, and the next time she awoke, what could she hear? She could hear something being uttered in her ears. That was Ram Naam Satya Hai. I don't know if any of you know, but that's what Hindus say when they're taking some dead body to be buried. The name of God is true. She awoke while they were ready to put her on a funeral pyre and burn her. She said, I'm not dead, I'm alive. Mata Tyan Devi got off this place. She went to the Gurdwara Sahib. She did a benti to the Singhs. And she said, I want to take Amrit. I want to become a Gursikh. I want to become like those people who are sat in Sat Sangat with Tan Tan Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. And at first the Singh said, oh, Amrit Sanchar will be arranged in due course in a couple of months. Then she told them what happened to her. Immediately, that very same day, Panch Singhs were ready and they blessed her with Amrit. And she became a Brahmgyani. She became one with the Kalpurk. This didn't just happen like that. This happened through effort. That's the only way we're going to progress in this. And after that, Guru Sahib will do Kirpa. But look at the Mahatma of Amrit. Hanji, the next quality, 12, Vidarta, being helpful. During the time of Satguru Shri Guru Amar Das Ji Maharaj, there was a family by Menga Singh and his wife, and they decided that they wanted to become one of the Kalpur. How are they going to do this? They decided we're going to starve ourselves. We're going to not eat or drink. We're going to put ourselves in all sorts of strange positions. Keep their hand held up in the air for so long. Do very intense tapasya in this way. And while they were doing this, they became very ill. And all of a sudden, while they were very ill, one of their relatives came. Mata Suheg Ji. And she came over there and she began to look after them. She began to feed them. She began to clothe them. She began to wash them. No one wanted to come and see them. They developed typhoid. None of their friends or relatives wanted to come and see them. And they were wondering, who is this person? She says she's our relative, but does any relative look after someone this much? And they said, while they were ill, while they were looking at her, they began to see that she was reciting something. They began to see that she was engrossed in something, although she was still doing all the worldly activities. Eventually they got better. And when they got better, they decided to see what she was doing. They began to see, where is she going? And they saw her in every house in the village. She would go over there and she would do some seva over there. She would tell other people to recite Gur Mantra. She would try to bring them into this path. Any seva she could do, she would do. And then they began to realize there's no point in subjecting yourself to the torture that they were. They saw the embodiment of Sikhi in this lady, in this Mata. Because remember, Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj says very, very clearly that we're not meant to preach by standing up here on stage and saying, do this, do that, do this. No, Sikhi is preached through the acts of Gursikhs. That's where our true inspiration gets. That's what true preaching is. Talking about these things means nothing. Living them is what it's all about. In this way, this Mata took them to the Darbar of Satguru Shri Guru Amar Das Ji Maharaj in Govindwal Sahib. Over a third of the preachers that Guru Sahib made were women. And they carried out this duty all across India, bringing people to the fold of Sikhi, making them see how to achieve anything in this true path. This is how we should be. Any person we see in any pain, any person, irrespective of who they are, if they're a friend, our family, if they belong to a different religion. We spoke earlier on in the first session about how the Nishan Sahib represents the Darbar of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. How the Nishan Sahib represents that this house welcomes everyone. Everyone can find a place over here. But Khalsa Ji, what we need to recognize is that Satguru Shri Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji Maharaj, Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, when he first blessed us with a dastar, put a Nishan Sahib on our heads. So when any person sees a Gursikh with that Nishan Sahib, with that dastar, they recognize this is a place where I can find shelter. This is a person who will help me. And it's not good enough thinking about history and thinking about people who did this time hundreds of years ago. It happens to this day. And we need to live that. Because no one's going to become the sons of Bhai Taru Singh, Bhai Mani Singh Ji, Mata Pagkor. We need to become that. We're their sons and daughters. The next quality. A virtue in itself is adapting virtues you see in other people. This is why we sit in Sadh Sangat. This is why we get inspiration from other Gursikhs. Now again, I'm going to rush through this Taki. I'm really, really sorry. we hear a lot about this, about what happened at Lahore, what happened at Mir Mannu's jails, what happened to the Singhnis over there. But we don't even know the names of these Singhnis. We don't even know who their leader was. They were subjected to such cruelty. The leader of the Singhnis who were in the jails of Mir Mannu was someone called Mata Basant Kaur, who was the Singhni of the leader of the Singhs, Bhai Mani Singh Ji. Now, Mata Basant Kaur was the daughter of Bhai Lucky Shah, the same Sikh who burnt every single one of his belongings to keep the Satkar of Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. Bhai Mani Singh Ji's family is possibly one of the greatest family in this dharam. Over 63 members of their family became shaheeds. When Mata Basant Kaur and her daughter-in-laws and her daughters were brought to the jails, her great-grandson Bhai Himmat Singh and her grandson Bhai Bhoop Singh were there as well. Very, very young children. And Mir Mannu thought, I'm going to try and convert these people. I'm going to make these Sikh women into Muslims. And how was he going to do it? He was going to starve them. He's not going to give them any food or water. He's going to make their children die first of hunger, of thirst. And then he'd break the women. Because remember, that link between a mother and a child is very, very unique. It's very, very special. He kept them in such atrocious conditions. It was in the summer. The year was 1734. And he made them grind corn in the field. And in this way, he hoped he'd break their spirit. And eventually he decided, I'm going to visit them. I'm going to have a talk with them. But before that, he sent so many of his ministers. He sent so many people to come and do a benti and said, why are you doing this? Why are you sacrificing your children? What is the purpose? You've lost your husbands, your sons, your brothers are being killed. As you can see in that picture down at the bottom. Bhai Mani Singh Ji is going to be cut joint by joint. And don't think it was only Bhai Mani Singh Ji who had to endure this shahadat. All those Gursikhs who were arrested, none of them turned their back on Sikhi. So he came. But what did the Bibis do before they saw him? They did a ardas before Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. They didn't ask, save us, save our children, give us food, give us water, give us shelter. No, what did they ask for? They asked, Guru Sahib, bless us with your Sikhi. Make us never falter from this path. And in this way, they started doing Jakare from there. Mir Mannu came, he heard this. He couldn't believe that they were showing so much Jaldi Kala, that they had so much Shakti, so much faith. They didn't ask for anything else. Just to remain Barbak in Sikhi. Just to offer their children so that the children of today, all of us gathered here, can live, can practice Gursikhi, can become Singhs and Kaurs of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. And we need to ask ourselves, are we doing that? So Mir Mannu came and he said, why have you're such beautiful people. Allah didn't make you this way for you to suffer, for you to endure this pain. You're meant to live in palaces. You're meant to have all the comforts in the world. But you decided to go with the Singhs. And look at what suffering they brought on you. They can't even protect you at this time. So what did Mata Basant Kaur do? She said, what rubbish are you talking about? We found every happiness at the feet of Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj with our Gurmukh husbands. Because that's your closest Sangat, your companions. And she said, this path of Sikhi means the world to us. We can give our heads no problem. We don't need the Singhs to protect us. Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj has given us Shastras, has given us independence, has given us sovereignty. Hundreds of years ago, before all these human rights and this women's rights came into place, Guru Sahib had already given such an elevated status to women in the times of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Mir Mannu couldn't break their spirit. So what did he decide to do? He decided to get such cruel soldiers. No ordinary soldiers were brought in. These were soldiers who had a special grudge against the Singhs. And he decided, I'm going to give them such a torture, such horrible things are going to be done that they'll become Muslim, that the whole world will know about this Sakha. And in this way, soldiers were brought in who began to laugh as the children were crying, began to throw the children up in the air and put spears through them, cut them piece by piece and make them into garlands. But the birag that these women, these daughters, these sisters had for their children turned into birag for Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. And they happily endured this. In this way, all of them became shaheeds. But remember, we talk about adopting virtues. Some of them may have been worried. Some of them may have thought, my children. Some of them may have thought, really, they're very hungry. But when they saw the example of Brahmgyanis like Mata Basant Kaur and the other Kaurs, no doubt they were influenced. No doubt they began to realize what this path of truth was. And not a single Singhani, not a single child turned their back on this path. And now we really need to think about that. How many times do we turn our back against other Sikhs who may not be partak in this path? Is it not our duty to bring them to this fold, to bring them to the darbar of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, to share that love, to share that Sikhi with them? How many times do we take our children to all sorts of places? How many times do we cut their hair? How many times do we sacrifice all these things for worldly things? And look at what these Guru Sikhs did. Imagine if they looked down upon us today. What would they say? What would they feel? That for you, I sacrificed myself, I sacrificed my children, I had to have them put in a garland and on me. We need to think about this. The next virtue, maturity, Gambhirta. Our Shaheed, Bhai Rajinder Singh Jinda, who did a Mahan Seva for the Panth, who on the 22nd of October in 1989, at 17 minutes past 2, a decision was passed in a court, in the Supreme Court, and that decision was we're going to hang Bhai Sukha and Bhai Jinda. And what was their response? They began to laugh and utter jakare. This is what true Singhs are like, completely fearless. Why were they fearless? Because they're fighting for the truth, because they're fighting for righteousness, because they're fighting for Dharam. They're fighting for this path of Gursikhi. They're fighting for this path of Tan Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Tan Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. And Maharaj had placed his hand on them. He'd made them fearless. He'd turned them into Sarablo. They could bear anything. When you go to a hospital, when you go to A&E, you see people crying about everything. Anyone who's come into hospital, I can't breathe, I've got chest pain, I've got this pain, I've got that pain. I can't live with this. No one wants to die. Everyone wants to live. Look at these Gursikhs. They laughed at death. If you read their letters, what they write is that forget this life, I can give 100,000 lives for this path. I'll keep coming back for this path. This is the love they have for this Marag of Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. It's one thing to say Bhai Sukha and Bhai Jinda were fearless. But look at the mother of Bhai Rajinder Singh Jinda, Mata Gurnam Kaur. Mata Gurnam Kaur never cried, never made any statements in the newspaper asking for appeals, asking for her son's life to be spared. In the letters of Bhai Sahib, Bhai Rajinder Singh Jinda and Bhai Sukhdev Singh Sukha, they write that how blessed we were to be given a godly mother like yourself, who's imbued us with the qualities of Gursikhi, who's shown us this path of courage, of righteousness. They gave all the blessings to their mother. They said, this is your blessings. We're able to do this. We're fearless now because you were fearless. Mata Gurnam Kaur never ever cried. On the 8th of October or the 9th of October, on the day of Shahidi, Mata Gurnam Kaur came to see Bhai Rajinder Singh Jinda for the last time. Just imagine this, because sometimes when we talk about Shaheeds, we just talk as if it's nothing. How old was Bhai Rajinder Singh Jinda? He was 31. When he began to walk on this path, he was 23. He gave up everything for this Panth. He writes in his letters, he's written off his Panth. He's written off his life to the Panth. It doesn't matter what happens now. Mata Guru Nanak Kaur came to see him for the last time. Imagine what must have gone through her head when she looked in the eyes of Bhai Rajinder Singh Jinda, who was dressed in a white chola, who was dressed with a kesri dastar. And she looked at his eyes. Imagine how those thoughts must have gone through her head. That same Bhai Rajinder Singh Jinda that she gave birth to, that she taught how to walk, that she taught how to speak, that she used to love so much. This was the last time she was ever going to see that Singh. This was the last time she was ever going to see her son. You might all be mothers and fathers over here. Imagine seeing your son or your daughter for the last time. And she didn't cry. She held his face in her arms. And she said, know that I'm very, very proud of you. No, I can never have a son like you. And what else did she say? Wherever you go, be happy. Imagine that. This is the mother of the Khalsa Panth. That's the last time she ever saw him. And Bhai Rajinder Singh Jinda and Bhai Sukhdev Singh Sukha marched to the hangman noose, kissed that hangman noose. And the 9th of October in 1992, they took their place at the feet of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. And think, that day keeps coming and going. Do you ever think about their shahadat? Do you ever think about the sacrifice, the qurbani of this mother? That's what true maturity is. It's about your response to the environment. An appropriate response. This is an appropriate response for Gurmat. From a worldly perspective, people will say, how can anyone do this? They'll be crying, begging for mercy. These are the type of mothers that we have. Fifteenth quality, we're nearly done. I'm really, really sorry for taking a bit of time, but it's very, very important that we consider what these qualities are, because how are we going to become these people? That's what we need to do. How are we going to become if we don't even know what their qualities are, if we don't even know what they did for us? A pure mind. We talked about the first Sikh, Bibi Nanaki Ji. One of the second Sikhs was Bibi Talassan Ji, who many people don't even know, never even heard of her name. Bibi Talassan Ji was one of Bibi Nanaki Ji's best friends. And again, like Bibi Nanaki Ji, she loved Tan Tan Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj with all her heart. And what happened? One day, as Satguru Ji was sleeping, Mata Tripta Ji called Bibi Talassan Ji and said, go and wake Guru Sahib up. I've made his food, I've made his lunch, I've made his langar. And Bibi Talassan Ji went into the room that Satguru Ji was sleeping. And she was so overcome with barag, she was so overcome with love, that what did she do? Instead of touching Guru Sahib on his shoulder, instead of shaking him, she placed her head at the feet of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. She kissed Guru Sahib Charan Kamal. And what did she see? When she did this, Guru Sahib opened her dasam dawar. He gave her dib drishti. He gave her that third eye to be able to look in the past, in the present, in the future. And what did she see? She saw a ship in the ocean that was drowning. And she saw a Sikh doing ardas over there, that Akal Purkh save me, save the ship. In the same way, how Bhai Makkan Shah did ardas to Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. This Gursikh, I forget his name, was doing ardas to Guru Sahib. And what did she see? She saw Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj picking that boat up, picking that boat out of the water and taking it to safety. And she left. After doing that, she left. She went to Mata Tripta Ji. And Mata Tripta Ji said, where's my son? Where's Guru Nanak Dev Ji? And what did Bibi Talassan Ji said? She said, he's busy. I couldn't wake him up. He was saving his sixth ship. And Mata Tripta Ji said, what are you talking about? What nonsense are you talking about? He's just asleep over there. What ship is he saving? She thought Bibi Talassan Ji was making fun of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And then she went and shook Guru Nanak Dev Ji and woke him up. And she said to Guru Sahib that, look what Bibi Talassan Ji is saying. She's saying that you're saving someone's ship. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji smiled and said that she's gone mad. And in that bachan, Bibi Nanaki Ji heard it. And while she was sat down with Guru Nanak Dev Ji, with Bibi Talassan Ji, while they're having the langar, Bibi Nanaki just asked him, why did you say that she's mad? And Guru Sahib said, no, she's not mad. I've given her Brahm Gyan. I've given her a pure mind. A pure mind. One that she'll look everywhere and she'll see me. She'll see a Kalpurk. She'll see a Kalpurk in everyone. The same avastha that Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj blessed to Bhai Kanhaiya Ji, Bibi Tulassan Ji Hata. That's the pure mind that we should be aiming for. It's not good enough to be half a Sikh. Remember, if you want to be a true Sikh, if you want to be one who follows this path, you need to become a Brahmgyani. We want to become one in the Kalpurk. That's what our aim is. The 16th, Slakhi, the last one, Dharam. It ties into the Amrit Sanchar. Formalizing your relationship between you and Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. We already heard how Mata Tyan Devi became Mata Tyan Kaur. The only way she was going to enter that realm was by becoming a Sikh of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. This is a picture of Bibi Ravinder Kaur Ji, who did huge seva during 1984. Now, Bibi Ravinder Kaur Ji was born in a family and she was the youngest of 6. She had 2 brothers and 3 sisters. And her parents weren't Amritari, her parents weren't Gursikhs, but her elder brother and daughter were. And she always used to say, right from when she was very young, I want to become like my elder sister. I want to become an Amritari. You ask any child today, when she was 9 years old, this is what she used to say. You ask them today, what do you want to become when you grow up? I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a king, I want to be this, I want to be that. Maybe not all kids say that, but that's what I used to say. All these worldly things, that's what you're after. Who says they want to become a Gursikh? Who says they want to become like Mata Pal Kaur, like Bibi Satnam Kaur, like Mata Gurnam Kaur, like Bibi Tulassan Ji, like Bibi Nanaki Ji? But look at her understanding. Her parents said, no, you can't take Amrit, not until you're married. But what did Bibi Ravinder Kaur Ji do? There was a big samagam, a Gurmat samagam, which Sant Gyani Baba Kartar Singh Ji had organized. And Bibi Ravinder Kaur went there by herself. Her parents were away, they were at work. Her other siblings were somewhere else. She traveled all that way by herself, 9-year-old. And she heard there was an Amrit Sanchar. She didn't have any kakars with her, but the Singhs who were organizing, doing the seva, gave her the kakars. And when she presented herself in front of the Panch Pyare, they looked at her and said, have you come with anyone? Have you come with your mother or father? And she said, no, I've come alone. And they said that, do you not recognize the responsibilities that you need to have? It's not something you can take lightly. Why don't you go back and then come later on when you're older, when you come with your parents? And what did Bibi Ravinder Kaur Ji do? With all the humility in the world, she looked at the Panch Pyare, she looked at Guru Sahib's Roop, she looked at them and she said, I don't understand. My elder brothers, Sahibzada Baba Gurdwara Singh and Sahibzada Baba Fateh Singh, were only 8 and 6 when they became Shaheeds, let alone when they were Amritari. If they could be blessed with Guru Sahib's Amrit, am I not a daughter? Am I not their younger sister? Can I not be blessed with it? And the Panch Pyare, hearing this response, immediately decided to bless her with that immortal gift. The Bibi Ji came home. She was so imbued with Namras, she was so imbued with the love of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj that she sat outside in her yard with a harmonium and began to do kirtan, began to sing about Vaheguru. Began to sing about Tan 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 Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj in the same way that we did today. And when her father came back, he saw her wearing her dastar, he saw her dressed in the Khalsa's bana, he became very annoyed. And he said, I specifically forbade you from doing this. Why have you become an Amritari? Why have you taken this step? Did I not tell you you're not allowed to do it? And Bibi Ravinder Kaur, the response is one that we need to think about very, very carefully. She said, how many different stray dogs are there in the village? Now her father looked at her and said, what sort of silly question is this? How should I know how many stray dogs there are? And Bibi Ravinder Kaur looked at the father again and said, I've seen these stray dogs. They roam around from place to place, looking for food, looking for help. And when they die, their bodies are left there to rot. No one comes and picks them up. No one comes and buries them. No one comes and looks after them. Bibi Rajinder Kaur ji said, in the same way, if we haven't been blessed with Amrit, if we haven't been blessed with this immortal gift, we are like the stray dogs. Who's going to look after us? Once we become Guru Sahibs, once we make that formal commitment, that's just the first step, remember. But once we do that, Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj owns us. He looks after us. Bibi Rajinder Kaur said, when I die, I know now that Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj will come for me. The gatra that she had on, she said, that's my leash. The kara that she had on, she said, that's my handcuff. I've tied myself to Guru Sahib. He'll take me wherever he wants to take me. These are the sort of things that we need to think about. Now, there are only 5 more minutes left, so please bear with me. We need to ask ourselves, the statement was, Batti Salakhani Satsam Tatput, to produce a true son, what qualities do you need to have? We've spoken about the first 16, but it's important we ask ourselves, what sort of child are we going to produce, are we going to have? What will they grow up to be? Will Sikhi continue your generations? Very, very important questions we need to ask. Anji Singh. Will they turn to alcohol? Will they turn to drugs? Will they go to jail? Will they be the next murderer, the next rapist? What sort of child are you going to have? Everyone has children. The whole world has children. There are 7 billion people in this world. How many of those children have become Gursikhs? How many of them have become good people? How many of them have become Sant Sapais? How many of them become soldiers, Brahmgyanis? And how many have turned to this? Very, very important that we consider this, because this alcohol problem, drug problem is eating away at our youngsters. I remember when I first came to this country 14 years ago, when I was 14, speaking to some people at school, Punjabi students, Sikh students, they used to tell me that they went to some wedding hall and they would drink alcohol over there. That's where the problem arises. You're taking your own children to these wedding halls and they're drinking over there. We have this option or we have this option. What sort of children do you want? Are you going to take them to that wedding hall, or are you going to bring them to the Darbar Sahib? Are you going to bring them to listen to Kirtan, to become one with their Guru? Are you going to take them to the Sangat of Manmukhs, or are you going to take them to the Sangat like Brahmgyanis with Gursikhs? Think about it. How can we hope to bring the next generation of Bhai Rajinder Singh Jinda, Bhai Sukhdev Singh Sukha, if we're taking them to those places? How can we hope to produce true children if we ourselves aren't true? If we ourselves don't follow these qualities? If we don't become one with the Guru Granth Sahib Ji? If we aren't Amritari ourselves? Very, very important to consider. The future is in your hands. The mothers and daughters, it's in your hands. Who's going to bring up the next generation of soldiers? You are. Who's going to bring up the next generation of Gursikhs? You are. Who's going to bring up the next generation of Brahmgyanis? You are. It's all in your hands. Are you going to teach them Guru Mantra and Mool Mantra, or what are you going to teach them what's their first word going to be? We already spoke about Mata Anand Kaur. She was only with her son, Sant Gyani Baba Gurbachan Singh Ji, for 13 months. But in that time, she sowed the seeds of Gursikhi, and look how many people, how many thousands, tens of thousands of people that are inspired to this day by Sant Gyani Baba Gurbachan Singh Ji. It's only through the blessings of Mata Anand Kaur that that was possible. Sant Baba Nand Singh Ji used to say in Diwan, very, very important, that from the moment you know you're expecting a child, if you begin to recite Shri Sukhmani Sahib every day, right till the day that child is 1 year old, that child will be Parpak in Sikhi, no matter what life throws at them. What we need to think about is, how many of us even do Shri Sukhmani Sahib for ourselves, let alone for our children? And the message can be extrapolated. It's not only Shri Sukhmani Sahib. How many of us sit down with our children and say Shri Mool Mantra, Shri Gur Mantra? How many of us do it for ourselves? Because I said, you need to become a Guru Sikh before your child can. Otherwise, what are they going to follow? We spoke about that commitment. We spoke about becoming Guru Sahibs, making that formal commitment. There's an Amrit Sanchar happening. One final thing I want to mention before I stop. This is a story from the times of Sant Baba Attar Singh Ji, Mahan Brahmgyani. It's a sakhi that was told by Baba Hari Singh Ji in 2010 in Leicester. You can see the YouTube video. And in that, Baba Hari Singh Ji says that there was a Brahmin family and there was a child who attended some of the samagams that were organized by the Singhs and was so influenced. They came home and they told their mother that they want to become a Sikh. They want to become a Singh. They want to become a member of the Khalsa Panth. They want to become a son of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. And the mother looked at her child and said, what rubbish are you talking about? Our dharam is Hinduism. We believe in doing puja of stones. We don't believe in this path of Guru Sikhi. We don't believe in this path of Sikhi. You can't take Amrit. And in this way, the child became very, very upset. They went to their room. All they did all night was say Amrit, Amrit, Amrit. And in this way, they passed away in this way. Very young child. The pran disappeared. The mother, they found the child in the morning, lifeless, completely cold, unresponsive. And they invited all their relatives, they invited all their friends and said, our child has died. We should organize the funeral. We should organize this. And in this way, the mother was very, very upset because she began to think, I've denied my child this opportunity and now he's dead. He's died. She even did a benti that if you can hear me, if you can hear my voice, in your next life, don't come to my house. Don't come to a house of someone who denies you this immortal gift. Go to the house of some Guru Sikh who shall bless you with this, who shall take you there hand in hand, who shall be so proud of you for making this step. And then one of the Sikh friends came over and said, why don't we take the child to the Gurdwara, the body? And the mother was very happy. She was like, okay, let's do this. At least he'll have darshan of Guru Sikhs. At least he'll place his head at the Gurdwara side one more time. So they took the body over there. And at that time, Amrit Sanchar was going on. A Jathadar was Sant Baba Attar Singh Ji. And while over there, the mother began to make a request saying that why don't the Panch Pyare, why don't we do a benti to them to put a few drops of Amrit in this dead body. And the Sikh Bibi who was there said, stop making noise, just keep quiet. The Singhs who were doing the seva of the Panch Pyare heard this discussion, heard what was going on, and they said, let's go and find out what's happening. Who's making all that noise? Who's crying outside? And they heard what had happened. They heard the benti of this Hindu mother. And the Panch Singhs got together. And they had a bit of a discussion. And one of the Singhs said, is this right to be giving, is the Maryada right to be giving Amrit in this way? And one of the other Panch Pyare Singhs said, of course it's right. What is the purpose of Amrit? What did Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj do in 1699? In this way, Ardas was done before Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. The Maharaj show us the power, show us the Shakti of Amrit and forgive us if we're making any mistake. In this way, one of the Panch Pyare held the boy. Another Panch Pyare opened his mouth. Sant Baba Attar Singh Ji said to that child, to that dead body, Bol Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. And that dead body got up and said, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. This is the Mahatma of Amrit. That's the first step we need to take. This is not 1699. This is only 100 years ago. Till today, this sort of things happen. So we need to think. We need to start taking steps to our Guru. Without that, all these lectures, all these talks are meaningless. All this history that we have, this beautiful history, is meaningless if we don't begin to make these steps before our Guru. If we don't try and implement some of these things. There are 16 other Salakanis that we will talk about eventually if the Sangat wants. But from here, we'll stop over here. And I'd just like to ask you forgiveness for talking so much. But I want you to do a ardas for me that one day I might be able to live up to some of these qualities. Again, I'm just your younger brother. I'm learning on this path. Please forgive me for any mistakes I've made. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Bole so nihal, Sri Akal.